Everyone passed by the old woman like she did not exist, as if she were just another shadow on the dusty road, sitting quietly with tired eyes and empty hands, watching life move on without her. But no one ever stopped to ask her name or hear her story, and with every passing horse and wagon, her hope faded a little more, until one evening when the sky turned orange and the wind carried a strange silence. A millionaire cowboy rode down that same road, strong and confident, yet something about that lonely figure made him slow down, his eyes fixed on her as if he saw something others refused to see. And in that single moment when he gently pulled the reins and chose to stop, the world around them seemed to hold its breath, because no one knew that this small decision would uncover a painful past, a hidden truth, and a life-changing act of kindness that would turn her sorrow into something no one expected. She was a weak and poor old woman who lived alone beside a long, dusty road, in a broken house that looked like it could fall any moment. And every morning she slowly stepped outside with hope in her eyes, sitting on an old wooden chair as she watched people pass by without stopping, some whispering about her, some pretending not to see her at all. And although the town knew she existed, no one truly cared enough to help or even speak to her. Yet there was something strange about her quiet patience, as if she was waiting for a moment that had not arrived yet. And as the sun went down each day and the road became empty again, she held on to a silent belief deep in her heart, because behind her fragile smile and tired face, she was hiding a story so painful and powerful that no one had ever dared to discover it. Days kept passing in the same slow and quiet rhythm, and the dusty road in front of her house never truly rested, as travelers, workers, and even kind-looking families continued to ride past her without stopping, their voices fading into the distance while she remained still like a forgotten part of the land. Some of them glanced at her with soft pity in their eyes, but quickly looked away as if her pain was too heavy to carry even for a second, while others did not even bother to notice her presence at all. And with every passing figure, her silent hope grew weaker, yet never fully disappeared. Because deep inside her fragile heart, she was holding on to something far more powerful than anyone could imagine, a secret tied to her past that she had buried for years beneath layers of silence and sorrow. And sometimes when the wind blew gently across the road, her eyes would close for a brief moment as memories tried to return, flashes of a different life where she was not alone, where her home was not broken, and where her hands were not empty. But each time those memories came closer, she would slowly open her eyes again and force them away, as if remembering too much would break the little strength she still had left. And yet there was something unusual about the way she watched the road, not just with sadness, but with quiet patience, as if she believed that one day someone would finally stop and see her for who she truly was, not just a poor old woman sitting in dust, but a person with a story that had been waiting too long to be heard. And as the sun moved across the sky, casting long shadows over her small house, the air began to feel heavier, almost as if the world itself was preparing for something unseen, because hidden within her silence was a truth that could change everything, a truth about loss, betrayal, and a life that had been taken from her in a way no one in that town had ever imagined. And while the road continued to carry people who chose not to care, fate was slowly bringing someone closer, someone who would not just pass by, someone who would stop and uncover the secret she had protected for so long. A moment that would turn her quiet suffering into something no one could ignore anymore. As the evening light softened and the long shadows stretched across the quiet road, the distant sound of steady hoofbeats slowly broke the silence, growing clearer with each passing second until a tall horse appeared through the drifting dust, carrying a wealthy cowboy known for his success and strength. Yet there was a calm seriousness in his eyes that set him apart from others who had passed before. And as he rode closer, his gaze shifted toward the old woman sitting in her usual place, but unlike everyone else, he did not look away or hurry past. Instead, his hands gently pulled the reins, slowing the horse as a strange feeling settled within him, something he could not explain yet could not ignore, because there was a quiet pain in her eyes that seemed to speak without words. And for a brief moment, the world around them felt still, as if time itself had paused to watch what would happen next. And though he had seen many faces in his life, none had ever held such a deep mixture of strength and sorrow at the same time. And without fully realizing why, He brought the horse to a complete stop right in front of her, the soft sound of hooves pressing into the dirt marking a moment that had never happened before on that road. And the old woman slowly lifted her gaze, surprised and uncertain, as if she did not believe that someone had truly stopped for her after so many years of being ignored. And the cowboy leaned slightly forward, studying her face with quiet attention, not with pity but with genuine concern, and in a calm, steady voice that carried both warmth and seriousness. He finally spoke words that had been missing from her life for far too long, asking her if she was okay. And the simple question felt heavier than anything she had heard in years, because it was not just a question but a moment of recognition, a sign that someone had finally chosen to see her existence. And as the wind moved gently between them, carrying the weight of silence that followed, something deep within her began to shift, as if the walls she had built around her past were starting to crack, and the cowboy remained there without rushing, without looking away, giving her a rare kind of patience that made it impossible for her to pretend everything was fine. And in that quiet exchange beneath the fading sky, the beginning of something unexpected took shape. Because this was not just a passing encounter, but the first step toward uncovering a truth that had been hidden for far too long. A truth that would soon change both of their lives in ways neither of them could yet understand. For a few long seconds, she said nothing, her lips trembling slightly, as if the words were too heavy to come out, while her eyes searched his face to make sure he would not leave like all the others. And when she realized he was still there waiting with quiet patience, something inside her finally gave way, and she took a slow breath before beginning to speak in a soft and unsteady voice, telling him that there was a time when her life had been very different, a time when she was not sitting beside a broken house, but standing proudly on land that belonged to her family for generations, land filled with life, animals, and memories that once made her feel safe and complete. And as her voice grew stronger, she revealed how everything had changed after a betrayal she never saw coming. How someone she trusted had taken advantage of her kindness and slowly took control of everything she owned, leaving her with nothing but loss and silence. And as she described the day she was forced to leave her own home, her eyes filled with tears she had held back for years, each word carrying the weight of pain she had buried deep inside her heart. And the cowboy remained still, listening without interruption, his expression growing more serious with every detail she shared, because he could hear the truth in her voice and feel the depth of her suffering. And she continued, explaining how she had spent years trying to survive alone, facing hunger, loneliness, and the cruel reality of being forgotten by the same people who once respected her. And even though her body had grown weak over time, her spirit had somehow refused to break completely, holding on to the faint hope that one day someone would finally understand what she had lost. And as her story reached its most painful moments, the air between them felt heavier, filled with emotions that could not be ignored. And when her voice finally faded into silence, she lowered her gaze as if expecting him to walk away like everyone else. But he did not move. Instead, he sat there absorbing every word, deeply affected by the truth she had revealed. And in that quiet moment, his perspective began to change, because this was no longer just a chance meeting with a stranger. It had become something far more meaningful, a connection formed through honesty and pain. And as he looked at her with a new sense of respect and understanding, a decision slowly started to form in his mind, one that would soon turn her story in a direction she had never believed was possible. As the night quietly passed and the first light of morning spread across the dusty road, she stepped outside again with the same fragile hope she carried every day. Yet something felt different in the air, a strange calm mixed with an unexplainable feeling that refused to leave her heart. And as she sat down slowly, her eyes fixed on the long, empty path ahead, the distant sound of approaching hoofbeats reached her ears once more, growing clearer until the familiar figure of the cowboy appeared through the soft rising dust. But this time he was not alone in purpose. There was a quiet determination in the way he rode forward, and when he stopped in front of her, he did not waste a single moment, gently stepping down from his horse while holding a set of folded papers in his hand, and her eyes filled with confusion as she watched him walk closer, her breath slowing as if she sensed something important was about to happen. And without saying too much, he carefully placed the papers into her trembling hands, guiding her to look at them. and as her eyes moved across the page, she struggled to understand at first. But then the truth slowly revealed itself. Those were legal documents transferring ownership of a piece of land back to her name. Land that would give her a second chance to live with dignity again, and before she could even find the words to respond, he turned slightly and signaled toward his horse, where a healthy milk cow stood tied calmly, strong and full of life. A gift that meant more than just survival. It meant stability, purpose, and hope for the future, and the moment felt almost unreal to her as tears filled her eyes, her hands shaking not from weakness but from disbelief, because after years of being forgotten, someone had chosen to give her everything she had lost in a way she never expected. And as the news began to spread across the town, people slowly gathered at a distance, whispering among themselves in shock and confusion, unable to understand why a wealthy man would go so far for a woman they had ignored for so long. Their eyes filled with curiosity and guilt as they witnessed a moment that challenged everything they believed. But the cowboy did not look toward them or seek any attention. His focus remained on her, watching silently as she struggled to accept what was happening. And in that powerful moment, her life stood at the edge of change, no longer defined by loss and loneliness, but by an unexpected act of kindness that carried the strength to rewrite her entire future. While the town stood still, forced to face the truth that compassion from one person had done what many others had failed to do for years. From that moment forward, her days no longer felt empty. As the land slowly came back to life under her care and the gentle sound of the milk cow each morning became a reminder that she was no longer forgotten. And with every passing day, her strength returned not just in her body, but in her spirit. While the same people who once walked past her now stopped and spoke with respect, carrying quiet regret in their eyes as they realized how easily they had ignored her pain. Yet she held no anger in her heart because she had learned that kindness, even when it comes late, still has the power to heal. And though the cowboy never returned and his presence faded like a passing wind, his choice remained alive in everything around her. And as she stood on her land one evening watching the sun set with calm eyes, she understood a truth that would stay forever, that a single moment of compassion can change a life in ways the world may never fully understand.